What if the person who made you feel adored today could destroy you tomorrow, without hesitation or guilt? What if behind every charming smile or desperate embrace hid a war between ego and abandonment? Narcissistic personality disorder and borderline personality disorder are not just labels, they are emotional battlegrounds where love turns into survival and affection becomes a weapon. These are minds that crave power or connection so deeply that reality itself bends around their pain. To understand them is to walk the thin line between manipulation and desperation, between control and collapse. The first major difference lies in core wounds and emotional motivations. A person with narcissistic personality disorder carries a psychological wound rooted in shame. The central belief is that they are special, superior, or entitled, and the world exists to mirror their importance. Their emotional world revolves around maintaining this illusion, because underneath it lies unbearable insecurity. They do not feel safe being ordinary or flawed, so they construct a false self that demands validation, admiration, and control. This false identity becomes their psychological armor, and any threat to it feels like annihilation. When admiration is withdrawn, or when someone challenges them, they react with rage or cold detachment, not because they are hurt in a relatable sense, but because their ego survival is threatened. In contrast, a person with borderline personality disorder carries a wound of abandonment. Their core fear is emotional disappearance. The belief is not that they are superior, but that they might be unlovable, broken, or impossible to keep. They do not seek admiration to fuel superiority. They crave connection to avoid a sense of emotional emptiness and identity diffusion. When a borderline person feels ignored, rejected, or emotionally dismissed, the reaction is panic rather than rage. It is terror of losing the attachment figure, not fear of losing status or control. They can switch from intense idealization to extreme devaluation because they are not trying to dominate the other person, they are trying to protect themselves from the pain of anticipated abandonment. The second difference appears in empathy versus emotional contagion. Narcissistic individuals lack genuine empathy. They can mimic it when it benefits their image, but they do not feel another person as separate from themselves in an emotional or moral way. People in their world are psychological objects, either useful or useless. If someone meets their needs, they are valuable. If someone stops meeting their needs, they become disposable. Emotional connection exists only as a tool of narcissistic supply. In borderline personality, empathy actually exists, sometimes in overwhelming intensity, but it becomes distorted because their own emotions are flooding the system. They do not lack care. They feel too much, and that emotional surge blurs boundaries. Their problem is not emotional coldness, but emotional hypersensitivity. This leads to rapid attachment followed by terror, confusion, and emotional chaos. Narcissists fear exposure of inadequacy. Borderlines fear emotional abandonment. Narcissists protect the ego. Borderlines protect the attachment. Here is where it gets interesting. Many people confuse these two disorders because both can engage in emotional outbursts and unstable relationships, but their intentions are opposite. The narcissist is protecting superiority. The borderline is protecting connection. The narcissist pursues power. The borderline pursues closeness. On the outside, someone might only see anger, distancing, or impulsive behavior, but the internal motives define the disorder. Narcissistic anger says, "How dare you disrespect me?" Borderline anger says, "Please do not leave me." Narcissists become aggressive when admiration is threatened. Borderlines become dysregulated when attachment is shaken. The narcissistic person wants control over others. The borderline person wants reassurance from others. Another crucial difference is self-image. Narcissistic personality is built around a grandiose identity. The self is inflated, constructed, and curated. The narcissistic person needs the world to confirm this grand self, or it begins to collapse. They cannot tolerate criticism because criticism punctures the illusion of superiority. Without the illusion, the inner emptiness becomes visible. On the other hand, borderline personality involves a fragmented identity. The self is unstable, shifting, and undefined. The person does not know who they truly are. One moment they feel worthy, and the next moment they feel they are nothing. It is not superiority that is threatened, but existence itself. Their identity depends on emotional proximity to others, which means relationships feel like psychological oxygen. The narcissist feeds on admiration. The borderline feeds on connection. A deeper psychological difference surfaces in how each disorder experiences shame. A narcissistic person cannot tolerate shame at all. It is not processed, it is deflected. They project it outward, blame others, attack, diminish, or devalue. Shame is converted into superiority or rage. A borderline person internalizes shame. They feel it, drown in it, and collapse under it. Instead of deflecting shame outward, they implode internally. The narcissist says the world is wrong. The borderline says I am wrong. This difference defines emotional responsibility. Narcissistic personality does not access emotional accountability. Borderline personality can, but struggles to regulate the overwhelming emotional intensity that blocks self-reflection. When it comes to relationships, narcissistic individuals enter them to obtain narcissistic supply. The partner is a reflection of their worth, a psychological mirror, a resource. Love is conditional and transactional. When admiration fades, the partner is replaced or punished. Narcissistic relationships are about extraction, not connection. Borderline individuals enter relationships searching for emotional safety and identity grounding. They want closeness so desperately that it becomes overwhelming. The fear of losing the other person creates a cycle of clinging and pushing away. The relationship is chaotic, intense, and painful, but it is not calculated. It is desperate. The intention is connection, even if it becomes destructive. The emotional tolerance threshold is also opposite. Narcissists suppress vulnerability to maintain invulnerability. Their emotional world is constricted. They avoid introspection because it threatens their ego structure. Borderlines, on the other hand, live in emotional overwhelm. They feel every shift in tone, attention, and energy with painful sensitivity. Narcissists feel too little. Borderlines feel too much. Narcissists detach as self-protection. Borderlines attach as self-protection. These differences show that the disorders do not live in the same psychological dimension, even if their behavior sometimes overlaps. This is the turning point where understanding becomes clarity. Narcissistic wounds are defended by entitlement, superiority, and emotional detachment. Borderline wounds are defended by fear, clinging, and emotional dysregulation. One externalizes pain, the other internalizes pain. One uses people to stabilize the ego, the other uses connection to stabilize identity. One destroys attachment to remain powerful, the other destroys attachment out of fear of losing it. On the outside, both disorders cause relational harm, but internally they are psychological opposites. The world often mislabels borderline individuals as narcissists because people only see the emotional outburst, not the emotional origin. If a borderline person feels abandoned, they lash out from panic, shame, and terror. If a narcissist feels challenged, they lash out from entitlement, ego defense, and injured pride. The fuel is different, the target is different, the internal experience is different. A narcissist becomes angry to protect superiority. A borderline becomes angry to protect connection. One defends the throne, the other defends the bond. Over time, narcissistic relationships leave others feeling erased, manipulated, and emotionally emptied because the narcissist drains connection without giving emotional reciprocity. Borderline relationships leave others feeling overwhelmed but not erased. There is still emotional presence even if it is chaotic. A narcissist wants obedience and admiration. A borderline wants reassurance and stability. Narcissistic love is possession-based. Borderline love is fear-based. Narcissists hunger for control. Borderlines hunger for attachment. Another important difference lies in worldview. Narcissistic personality is built around I matter more. Borderline personality is built around I might not matter at all. Narcissists inflate self-worth to escape shame. Borderlines collapse self-worth to escape abandonment. Narcissists weaponize detachment. Borderlines weaponize panic. Narcissists idealize themselves. Borderlines idealize others. These contrasts illustrate how the disorders originate in opposite psychological poles even though they appear similar superficially. Trauma expression is also opposite. Narcissistic trauma becomes armor. Borderline trauma becomes exposure. Narcissists do not feel safe being vulnerable. Borderlines do not feel safe being alone. The narcissist hides the wound. The borderline bleeds through it. Narcissists demand emotional regulation from others without providing it. Borderlines seek emotional regulation from others because they cannot generate it consistently. One hoards emotional power. The other begs for emotional safety. Despite this, society often sympathizes more with narcissists because they perform confidence, charisma, and competence. Borderlines get misjudged because their vulnerability is unfiltered and uncomfortable. Narcissism seduces. Borderline disorder exposes. Narcissism attracts through illusion. Borderline disorder scares through intensity. But intensity is not manipulation in the narcissistic sense. It is unregulated suffering. In the end, one fights to protect pride, the other to protect love, both trapped in the prisons of their own making. Narcissists lose people to save their ego. Borderlines lose themselves to save connection. Yet beneath the chaos lies the same fragile truth. Both are terrified of being unseen. Understanding them does not mean excusing their pain, but recognizing the human ache beneath the disorder. If this exploration helped you see deeper into the psychology of love and fear, then like, share, and subscribe to Psychanatomy, where we uncover the mind behind the mask.